institution. All of participants are expected to mute the audio and only unmute the video during the event. We cordially invite you to take your own firm and comfort seat in your own room, and please avoid the backlight. Make sure that you have a good and stable internet connection. If you have an earphone or headset, we recommend you to use it so that your voice can clearly and loudly to be heard. During the Q&A discussion session, all participants, please use the chat box to deliver the questions. Thank you for your cooperation and consideration.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to GLS on SDGs, Tuesday, 8 March 2022. I am Dian, and I will be your Master of Ceremony this afternoon, as well as your moderator for today's session. So thank you for joining our guest lecture series on SDGs. Before we start our agenda, let me inform you of some rules of the event. Okay, let me first, please adjust your name using the format name _ID or _campus. And second, during the lecture, please turn off your microphone and only turn on the microphone when the moderator gives the chance. And third, please fill your attendance at bit.ly/attendance_GLS. Don't worry, our committee will also send the attendance link at the chat Zoom room. And for participants who wish to get a certificate and stamp, please fill the attendance 30 minutes after the session starts. And for participants who wish to ask questions during the Q&A session, please send your question at bit.ly/GLS_Q&A_2. And don't worry, the link for questions also listed in the chat room as well. Or you may simply use the raise hand feature in the Zoom feature. So today's topic of GLS on SDGs will present a topic entitled Plant Pathology, the Importance of Integrated Plant Disease Management in Combating Plant Disease. It will be delivered by Dr. Misbakhul Munir from University of Kentucky. However, since Dr. Misbakhul Munir is from the United States, and the time difference is a huge time difference between Indonesia and United States, the lecture will be delivered asynchronously for Dr. Misbakhul Munir. And the second lecture will bring the topic well-being in changing societies, which delivered by Professor Dian Ratna Sawitri from Universitas. Thank you. And I will also become the moderator of today's lecture. And before we start our agenda, allow me to deliver our schedule today as follows. First, we'll have opening, and second, there will be introduction. And the third, there will be lecture session, and then continue to the Q&A session, then proceed to the certificate awarding. And also we have closing at the end of the session. And now before we proceed to the next agenda, let me introduce our speakers first. today we will have two speakers. Let me introduce the brief introduction of our speaker. So our first speaker is Dr. Misbakhul Munir. So he acquired his Bachelor of Science in Biology in 11 Maret University at Solo. And in 2013, he acquired a Master of Science in Plant Pathology, University of Kentucky. And in 2016 and until 2020, he acquired PhD at Plant and Environmental Sciences, Clemson University. He also acquired professional experience, such as Fulbright Scholarship granting and graduate research assistant, and also postdoctoral research associate. And his research interests, including mycology, epidemiology, conventional and molecular plant disease diagnostic, and also integrated pest management. Thank you. And now, without further ado, let's proceed to the main agenda. We will learn about plant pathology asynchronously for Dr. Misbakhul Munir. May the asynchronous started. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, I would like to thank Institute Teknologi 10 November and the organizer of this event. Thank you for inviting me and for the opportunity given to me to talk in this program. It's my honor to be able to participate in this such a great program. Thank you everyone as well who's coming to this lecture today. My name is Misbakhul, and I'm going to be talking about plant pathology or plant diseases and what strategies we can put together to manage these plant diseases. Okay. For some of you who might not be familiar with plant pathology or plant diseases, don't worry. This lecture is not meant to go into detail about plant pathology. Okay. And I'm going to start this lecture with reminding us that plant can get sick too, just like us. Okay, so this picture is just to show you how plant may look like when they get sick. And I wish this lecture was in person so I could ask your opinion about what do you when you see diseased plant like this. Do you feel sorry for them? Maybe. To me, these plants look so sad and suffering, right? So next time when you see plants that do not look like they're supposed to look, just ask them. Probably you can get some information. No, I'm just kidding. They won't answer. But what I'm gonna say is what this means for us. What does diseased plants mean for us? Does it mean nothing? Well, I would also like to remind us about where our food is coming from. Plant, right? So we all basically eat plants. We eat animals, but animals also eat plants. Okay, so the point is when we see diseased plants like this, we should worry. We should appreciate plants because plants provide us with food. Plants are source of food for us, right? So we should appreciate them more. also appreciate growers who plant food for us, right? Well, some of you might say, well, that's why we have plant pathologists like me to keep our plant healthy. But again, plant pathologists are not the only one who eat plants, right? We need to be aware, we need to work together because this is not only a problem to solve by particular groups of people, but this is a problem for all of us, okay? All right. For the sake of the general topic of this guest lecture series, which is Zero Hunger, what I'm gonna talk about next is that plant disease epidemics have contributed to several historic famines in the world. One of the most notorious examples is Iron Grade famines that happened in 1840s. This famine is also known as Irish potato famines, where almost the entire potato crops in Ireland at that time were infected and destroyed by a pathogen called Phytophthora infestan that can cause a disease called potato leaf blight. So this plant disease had led to a mass starvation in Ireland at that time. Another example of famines that has been associated with plant disease is Bengal famines in 1943. Bengals, by the way, is the area that is commonly called Bangladesh. And the plant disease that has been thought to contribute to this famine is plant disease on rice. It's called rice brown spot, okay? And there are some more recent plant disease epidemics happening in Africa, impacting cassava and corn crops. And these plant disease epidemics were caused by virus and bacteria. So this and the previous examples are to show us that plant disease can be a serious threat to food security, in the sense that plant disease can potentially cause reductions in the production of food, reductions in the quantity of food that we can produce. And that's not the only problem plant disease can cause in terms of food security. One of the biggest concerns about plant disease is the fact that many plant pathogens can also produce toxin. One of the most well-known toxins produced by plant pathogen is aflatoxin. This toxin is carcinogenic, and these toxins can contaminate food. And this toxin is produced by pathogens called aspergillus that can infect food crops such as corn. Another example of toxins is deoxynivalenol or DON. This DON toxin is produced by Rosalium species, and that species, this pathogens, can also infect many food crops such as corn, wheat, and other cereal crops. So at this point, what I'm gonna say is plant disease can not only cause reductions in the quantity of food that we produce, but it can also cause reductions on the quality of food that we produce. Now let's talk about what causes plant diseases. But first, let's talk about what a plant disease is. So a plant disease is a dynamic process where living or non-living entity interferes with normal functions of a plant over a period of time. By that definition, the causal agent of plant disease can be living organisms and non-living organisms, biotic or abiotics. And these are some of the groups of organisms that can cause plant diseases. We can talk in a little bit detail about each of these groups of organisms in the discussions or outside of this lecture. But what I'm gonna say here is this organism can cause plant disease, and most plant disease is caused by fungi mostly. Okay, and there are also some non-living things that can cause problems in plant health. And these non-living things are mostly coming from environmental conditions, such as nutritional deficiencies, soil compaction, and some injuries caused by salt injury. Ice, it's very common here in North America because we have winter. And also sun injury, sunburn is also very common here, especially in apple crops. Okay, so now we know what the causal agents of plant diseases, right? Let's move on to what and how plant disease occur, right? So there is a concept in plant pathology that's called disease triangle. And this disease triangles is a concept to describe the requirement for a disease to occur. And this has three aspects that have to be met in order for a disease to happen. One is the pathogen, the virulent pathogens that has ability to infect and cause disease on plants. The second one is susceptible hosts, susceptible plants that are susceptible from infection of pathogens. And then the third is the favorable environmental conditions. The environmental conditions have to be favorable for disease to develop. So these three aspects are required for a disease to occur. If one or two or three of these aspects are missing, then disease will not occur. Okay, and it's good to remember that within each of these factors or aspect, there are numerous variables that can also influence the magnitude of or level or severity of disease or plant disease. That can be genetic diversity within the pathogen or within the host plant. Some pathogens are really virulent, others may not be that virulent. Some hosts may be really resistant, others may be susceptible, right? And in addition to genetic diversities, there's also life cycles of pathogen and host. Some pathogens are virulent when they are mature, and they are not virulent when they are mature, right? Also, with the host, when plants are young, for example, they're more susceptible to disease compared to when they are mature, for example, right? And also environmental condition is very important for the development of pathogens as well as of the host, so, right? And that's why they can also influence the development of diseases. Okay, now let's move on to the disease cycle. So this cycles is the cycles of disease or also pathogen. So there are two disease cycles or pathogen cycle in general, monocyclic and polycyclics, but you don't need to worry about that for now. Both of these cycles consist of these at least 5 important steps. First is inoculation. Inoculation is the step where the pathogens have to be there, have to be on the plant somewhere, and be on the surface of the leaf, surface of the stem, or on the soil surrounding the root system of the plant. But yeah, the pathogens have to be there in order they can infect the plant and cause disease later on. The second stage is penetrations of infection. So the pathogens have to get into the plant, inside the plant, infect the plants to be able to cause disease, right? And there are several means for pathogens to get into the plants. Some pathogens might infect or penetrate the plants. Others might use natural opening, such as stomach or some opening due to injury. Okay, so next step is colonizations and reproductions. So after the pathogens get inside of the plant, then they have to be able to colonize and reproduce. And that's when we usually see symptoms like what I have shown you in the second slide of this lecture. Okay, and the next step is the disseminations. Like when the pathogens reproduce, they usually form some sort of structure that can be dispersed by several means, such as by some pathogen produce structures that can fly with the air, that can be carried by insects, or that can be dispersed by water, and so on. Okay, and then the survival stage is where the pathogen has to go through difficult environment, a rough environment. They have to be able to survive in this kind of rough environment. These environments can be environment that lack of source of food for them, such as in the winter, like here in North America. They have to go through the winter without any available host to infect, no food. They have to survive in some tropical areas. These pathogens might have to go through dry season, for example, right? Or from season to season, right? Where the growing seasons end, usually there is no plants available for the pathogens to infect until comes to the next seasons where plants are available. So they have to survive through this difficult conditions between seasons. Okay, so then knowing or understanding these disease cycles, as well as the three important aspects, these triangles that I have shown you in the previous slides, is very important, because understanding this can actually guide us in deciding or putting together strategies for controlling plant disease, right? Let's move on to management strategies of plant disease. But before we talk about several actions that we can take to suppress pathogen in each stage of their life cycles, first thing first, and very important, we have to know what we are dealing with. We cannot win the war without knowing who our enemy is, right? In this case, accurate pathogen identification or disease diagnosis is very important, because different pathogen or disease might need different treatments. So we can just take action without knowing pathogen, otherwise our actions will just be wasted. Okay, Another thing to consider is we should try to start with prevention measures. Try as best as we can to prevent pathogens to further develop to the next stage. Okay, now let's look at this action that can do to control or manage pathogens in its disease cycle. Let's start with survival. We know that survival is where pathogens are going through difficult environmental conditions or difficult situations. This can be the best time for us to control the pathogen. This can be the weakness time point of the pathogen. So if we take actions at this stage, we might be successful to prevent the pathogens to proceed or to further develop to the next stage.
Maka split
And
screen
what
ko.
we can do then for us can be in the beginning of growing season, right? Or there might be a lot of pathogens, inoculum in the field. So what we can do is we can remove as much as possible plant residue from previous seasons because they might harbor survival structures of the pathogens. That way we can minimize the amount or the level of pathogen inoculum in the field, right? Another thing we can do is planting non-host plant or doing crop rotations. These are very common practices in controlling many plant diseases, especially here in the US. Growers usually do this practice to prevent build up inoculum in their field from the previous crop. Okay, and another thing that we can do is modifying environmental conditions in the field. That way, we hope that we can get really diverse organisms in our field, in which among of those organisms, we might get good organisms, and we can use that to fight against bad organisms, in this case, the pathogens. So we favor the development of natural enemies for the pathogens in the field, right? And this modifying in environmental conditions can be achieved by several means, and these methods are commonly implemented in an organic farming system. Okay. All right. Now, how about the pathogens are already on the plants, on the surface of plants? Inoculations. What we can do to suppress the pathogens on this stage? Well, some of the things that we can do are: one, planting resistant cultivar if there is available. Planting resistant cultivar, we might prevent pathogens to develop further and prevent infections. Okay, and sanitation. Still, we can use this approach to minimize the risk of infection by removing source of primary inoculums in the field as much as possible. And again, modifying environmental conditions can also be done in this stage as well. Favoring development of natural enemies for the pathogens or using biological control agent can also be done to suppress inoculum in the field or in the plant. Okay. Also here in the US, we have protectant fungicide. It's also commonly applied by growers. This protectant fungicide is basically fungicide that give protections as a layer, as a wall, which it can prevent pathogens to infect the plant. Okay. Okay, what happens if the pathogens are already in the penetration or infection stage? Well, resistant cultivar might still work in this case, because even though pathogen can infect, with the resistant cultivar, the defense mechanisms of the plant or the host can prevent colonization of the pathogen, for example, right? And environmental modifications can also still be done here, because infection is usually much influenced by environmental factors such as temperature and humidity. So any means or any ways to make environmental unfavorable for pathogen infections can help in this stage. Okay, and biological control agents that can function as competitors for the pathogens, or even using some species just like the pathogens, but this species is non-pathogenic. That way they can compete to the pathogenic one and suppress the pathogenic one. Okay, and here we also have a fungicide, like systemic fungicide. But as you can see, we always use fungicide or chemical treatment as the last resort after we did all of the things that we can do to prevent the development of the pathogens. But sometimes fungicide is needed because we never know when they infect the plant. It's really challenging to monitor or to determine timing on infections. So fungicide can still be very useful in this case. And systemic fungicide is fungicide that have ability to move inside the plant. So this can be absorbed by the plant and have limited movement in the plant. Okay. In this case, in this stage, penetration or infection stage, protectant fungicides might not be helpful, as I mentioned previously, that protectant fungicide is functioning as a layer, as a border to prevent pathogen to infect the plant. But if the pathogen is already inside the plant, then protectant fungicide might not be helpful. Okay. How about when the pathogens are already colonized and reproduced inside the plant? What we can do? Well, using resistant cultivars might prevent further colonization, establishment of disease, for example, and still environmental modification, because colonization or pathogen reproductions are usually influenced by environmental conditions. Okay, and then utilization of biological control, natural enemies, non-pathogenic strain that can help too. And okay, systemic fungicide, right? If it's available. Okay, and how about dissemination, the spread of pathogen inoculum? What we can do if the pathogens are in this stage already? Well, then we still can, what we can do, we can probably do some eradications, removing infected part of the plant, right? Or planting on host crop, again, crop rotations again, before we can plant the same crops in the same field. Okay, so this approach ideally need to be implemented in combination or all together to get more effective results and more sustainable. Okay, we know that, but in the real life, in practice, it is very challenging to implement all of this approach altogether, or to incorporate all of this approach together to combat disease. And there are some challenges, and if I can group those challenges into two categories here, into two factors here. One is the environmental conditions. Sometimes things are beyond our control, right? For example, it's like inclement weather, okay? Growers in the US usually has really large acreage of land or field to cover, and they sometimes cannot access their field because of inclement weather. They might be scheduled to spray this time, but because of storm or tornado or hurricane, they cannot go to the field and spray the fungicide, right? That can be an examples of things that we cannot control, okay? Another challenge is the availability of resource, okay? So in some areas, probably in tropical areas, they don't have a lot of fungicides to be used. So in the US, we have so many fungicides to be used. So in some part of the world, options may be limited, right? Methods might not be available. All methods might not be available. Even in the US, in some particular crops, like hemp, for example, I have been recently working on hemp, and hemp has just been reintroduced in the US. So there is not much information yet about hemp. So we don't know about resistant cultivar on hemp. There are not many fungicide has been registered to be implemented on hemp. So we have limited option here in controlling disease on hemp, okay? And in some cases, resistant cultivar may not be available, right? We cannot use resistant cultivar, right? So that can be some challenge that growers might face. Another challenge is human resource. Of course, like I mentioned previously, growers in the US usually have large acreage of field, okay? And growers' jobs is not only controlling disease, it's not only managing disease. They have to plant, they have to fertilize, they have to irrigate, and this field tasks can be overlapping sometimes, and especially if they don't have sufficient labor, this can be, can be an obstacle to properly manage the disease, to properly incorporate all of the approach that we have. Doesn't mean that they don't have the method, but sometimes these overlapping tasks or covering large area of the field can be an obstacles in implementing this integrated pest management, incorporating this approach. So what happened then if we face the challenge, we face the obstacles? Then what very often happen is that we use and rely on very few approach that's available. Even sometimes growers use a single approach, a single method. And of course, that's not going to be effective, and that's less sustainable. Right? And that can lead to failure of disease management. Okay. Now, and these are some examples of disease management failure. Like I mentioned, resistant cultivar can be broken down, can be overcome by pathogens. Pathogens out there keep evolving. We put resistant cultivar this year, 5 years later, they may no longer be resistant to particular pathogens because it keep evolving, right? And fungicide-resistant strains among plant pathogen populations. In some of my studies, I have been looking at development of resistant strains among pathogen populations. And this data is from one of my study when I was detecting fungicide resistance among pathogen populations on causing disease on peanut to several fungicide. And we found that they found resistance populations to many fungicides that we usually use to control this disease. So this happened. It's really happened. Okay, so now we know the ideal ways to control the disease. This IPM, this integrated plant management ways, the best effective way, the ideal way. But then we know the challenge as well. So next is, what should we do? Right? What should we do then? Well, we plant pathologists, we keep researching, we keep studying to discover a new method or alternative methods to be added up to what already available, not to replace what already available, but to add it up and then to combine with what we already have and applied it. And also we keep searching, keeps studying on how to improve the currently available disease management. Okay, and we can not really work alone in this case. We have to work with people across disciplines, right? We might need people from outside plant pathology discipline. These days, we might need people from precision agriculture, right? They can build sensor for us to more effective and efficiently detect pathogen in the field, right? That can be something, right? We might need you, whoever you are, to do your part. Because like I mentioned previously, that plant diseases are not a problem for plant pathologists only. Like I mentioned, plant pathologists are not the only one who eat plant. So we are on this together. So we have to invite people across disciplines on board, and hopefully that way we can speed up the process in finding solution for this plant disease, right? And for us, because we don't want what has happened. We don't want the hunger. We don't want famine occur again. But these days, we have more challenge that people face back then. We have more people to feed, right? We have limited land. We have climate change. We have COVID now. We have pandemic, right? So we are all this together. So we have to do together. I think that's one among several messages that I hope you can take home from this lecture today. And I also want you to imagine in some places in this world where there is so much limitations on the option that we can use to control the disease, what they can do, what growers can do to do that, right? Try to help us with maybe your ideas. You have ideas, you can further research. So probably they can still do prevention treatment, because in my opinion, preventions can be less costly than applying curative or therapeutic treatments. I'm not talking about economic analysis in my lecture. Probably you can further study about that. Probably you can further research about that and see. And also, what I want you to take it with you is never depend on a single approach. There is no superior approach. There is no perfect approach to control or to solve the solution, to control disease. So in this case, we have to use any resource we have. We have to collaborate. I think that's the best term that I can say. We have to collaborate to solve this problem. Okay? Single approach will break down. It's just a matter of time, right? So I think I will close the lecture at this point. I want to encourage you to do your part to solve problems and disease. Do whatever you can do, because it's not the job for plant pathologists only, but it's for us to think about. Okay, and I would love to keep in touch. Would love to keep in touch with you guys if you are interested in keeping in touch with me. That is my email address, and you can reach me out anytime with any question or discussion. I will look forward to it. Thank you very much, and thank you for your attention, and thank you again for the opportunity to be a part of this great event. And thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for Dr. Misbakhul Munir for the very enlightening lecture regarding zero hunger topic. As we already listened that plant diseases are not only the problem of plant pathologists. It means we are all in this together, and also never depends on the single approach, because there is no perfect approach for disease control. Thank you very much, Dr. Misbakhul Munir. And for participants, don't forget to write down your questions through the link that has been sent to the Zoom chat box. And we will have Q&A session before the closing agenda. And now we are proceeding to the next agenda, a lecture by Prof. Dian Ratna Sawitri, entitled Well-Being in Changing Societies. Before we listen to the lecture, let me introduce our second speaker. Professor Dian Ratna Sawitri acquired her Bachelor of Psychological Science in 2000 in Universitas Diponegoro, and she acquired her professional program Psychologist in 2002. And then she acquired her Master of Science in Psychology in 2008. And lastly, she acquired her Doctor of Philosophy in Psychology in 2013. And also her achievement and awards, including Best Presenter in the International Seminar on Psychology and Call for Paper, Future Psychology, Interaction of Human Behavior, Culture, and Technology to Create Society 5.0. And also Outstanding Academic Award, and then Thesis Completion Scholarship from Griffith University in 2013. And she also published some researches such as Adolescent Parent Career Congruence as a Predictor of Job Search Preparatory Behaviors. And the second, Perceived Research Environment, Motivation, and Academic Interest in Research, a Social Cognitive Perspective. And the third is discrepancies between individual set and parent set career goal skill, development, and initial validation. So that's the brief CV of our second speaker. Before we proceed to the lecture, let me say hi to our speaker. Hello, Prof. Sawitri.
Hello, Ms. Dias.
Hello, how are you today, Prof. Sawitri? It's so nice to virtually finally meeting you.
Yes, I'm good. Thank you. How are you today?
I'm also fine, thank you, Prof. Sawitri. And Prof. Sawitri, I would like to share the virtual microphone to you, and Prof. Sawitri, now the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dias. Good afternoon, everyone. It is very nice to see all of you here. Thank you for ITS for letting me sharing several ideas regarding the well-being in changing societies. I would like to thank to the committee who has arranged this precious opportunity for me. And thank you also for all of the audiences, the participants. I think now in everywhere it's cloudy. So in Semarang, I'm in Semarang right now. So I'm in the Faculty of Psychology, Universitas Diponegoro. So maybe some of you have been to Semarang. And yeah, the situation is almost similar to Surabaya regarding to the hot season. We only have 2 seasons here, hot and very hot seasons. I believe in Surabaya you have those seasons too, yeah. So you can call me Sawitri, and this is a very great opportunity for me to share some ideas regarding SDGs 3, good health and well-being. But my highlight is only to the well-being. Yeah, maybe I just explain a little bit about the good health, and for the latter I will explain more about well-being. These are the topics that we will talk about for this afternoon. So health, mental health, and well-being, and then challenges in changing societies, and then work and well-being. So we also want to talk about the common issues regarding stress, anxiety, and depression, and also the summary of all of these topics. So I hope you can enjoy the session, and if you have any question, maybe later you can share your experience to us. I believe that most of you are students, right? And you experience this new situation, the pandemic situation, and maybe you feel sad, or maybe you feel exhausted because you have to face the computer all day long, just like me right now. And I believe that you want to meet your friends in face-to-face, direct communication or anything else, but sometimes we need to be aware of this pandemic situation and the consequences. So you need to consider many things when you are starting to get bored about this kind of situation. Maybe you can also share with us later. So what is health, mental health, and well-being? If we see the definition from WHO, health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So when you said to me that I am okay, I'm not sick, yeah, it doesn't mean that you are healthy, yeah. So you need to have a complete physical, mental, and social well-being. And mental health is a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, and then can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. In this pandemic situation, sometimes we heard that our friends or our colleagues said that I started to get bored. I just locked myself in my room and I didn't do anything. Yeah, I am too lazy to move. Yeah, and yeah, I just don't know what to do. Yeah. And when we see what is health and what is mental health, maybe we are also interested in knowing what is well-being. Well-being refers to individuals' self-evaluation of their affective states and positive feelings and emotions such as job or life satisfaction, self-realization, and happiness. So well-being is a subjective one. Yeah, this is your own evaluation of your affective states and positive feelings. So mental health is more like a state of well-being, when you realize your own abilities, when you realize that you can cope with normal stresses of life, etc. But well-being is your subjective evaluation of your condition. Yeah. And we all know that we face so many challenges in these changing societies. Maybe the students, for example, elementary student, even kindergarten students, and then high school students have to work from home, and sometimes they work from school. They go to school and then back to school from home again because of the situation. And we still have so many graduates, yeah. But when we talk about employment or job, I think we realize that in this moment we can realize that the situation is not an ideal situation to get a job. And when you get a job or when you work, you also face automatization. Yeah, so there is an automatization, and then there is also a pandemic situation. So we call it multiple disruptions. So you face automatization, and at the same time now we face pandemic situation. So in your work or during your study, maybe some of you also students who have no opportunity. So you didn't have any opportunity to come to the uni and then meet your friends. So from the beginning of your study, maybe some of you experience school from home, yeah. So in the first semester, maybe you started in the middle of 2020, for example, and then maybe we have a hope that everything will be okay in 2021, but no. So we are now in 2022 already. So it is almost 2 years, yeah. It's already 2 years before you for the students who entered the university in 2020. It has been almost 2 years for you to go to the uni, but without seeing your friends and your lecturers, just like your seniors before. Yeah. So, and it is also a very difficult situation for some of us because the parents has to face difficulties in sustaining the employability. So sustainable employability is the ability to get a job or maintain the job that you have already had. Yeah, sustainable employability in this kind of situation is a very very precious skill. Yeah, that you can obtain a job after you graduate from a university, for example. And then when you have already had a job, how you can maintain your job is also one of the important tasks in this kind of situation. So, and then at work, or when some of you maybe has already started to go to your office, and you need to apply some medical protocols. Yeah, so health protocols, like you have to wear your mask, and then you have to keep the distance from your friends, etc. And it also need several arrangements regarding the policy in your work. So there are so many challenges I believe that all of you face in this kind of situation. However, when we think about the positive things behind this kind of situation, it is a good opportunity actually for me to be here, and then for me to meet you, and for us to have this kind of arrangement so we can share ideas about SDGs number 3 together. So if it's a pandemic situation, maybe it is a bit difficult for me to go to ETS or for you to share your ideas. But this forum, I believe it is also forced by this kind of situation that we can meet each other, although we are on a distance. Okay? So then what is the difference between mental health and well-being? So mental health is made up of our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. Yeah. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. But well-being is just feeling good about ourselves and our life. So if you're mentally healthy, it means that hopefully we also expect that you can evaluate yourself that you are okay. So this kind of good feeling about yourself, we call it well-being. So I hope that you can understand the difference and the similarities between these concepts. And in Javanese, maybe it is a bit hard to have a perfect translation for well-being. What is well-being? But in Javanese language, you have like seger waras. Yeah, I believe that you some of you can speak Javanese very well. What is seger waras means? Oh, I have a very good well-being. Yeah, but in Indonesia, you have like kesejahteraan psikologis, yeah, kepuasan hidup, yeah, and well-being is maybe kesejahteraan psikologis. But in Japanese language, maybe you also found many languages to explain that you are okay right now. When we talk about the work, I think work is part of our situation as an adult. Yeah, since you are in your late adolescence and you enter your adulthood, work is an important thing. So one of the psychologists, developmental psychologist Erik Erikson, is a very important person in psychology, told us that when someone in their adulthood has a problem, the root of a problem generally is in vocational identity. So it is important for us as an adult to develop our vocational identity. What will we do to survive in our life? What kind of work we will do? So what is your passion? So are you enthusiastic? Are you enthusiastic in doing your work? Yeah. And then what is your strength? Yeah. What is your weakness? And what kind of areas of interest that you would like to do? So I would like to do something related to, for example, teaching. I like to do something regarding to entrepreneurship. Yeah, I want to be a government employer. I want to be a policeman, etc. So the root of the problems of an adult usually from their inability to set up the vocational identity. So I think it is important because when we go to school, when I was young, when I went to school, my teacher said that, what is your purpose to come to school? Apa tujuanmu belajar? What is your purpose to come to school? And what is your purpose to study? And the right answer is to mengisi kemerdekaan, ya, to feel the free situation. Yeah. But now it is very important for us to realize that we need to have a career aspiration, a goal. And a goal is, you cannot develop a goal, you cannot develop your career goal in a vacuum situation. Yeah, you need to have role models, you need to have information, you need to see vicarious experiences, so experiences from other people that you can learn from them. And then you need to be exposed to several information or models, and you need to be involved in several situations. And your involvement and that kind of career exploration can lead you to have a career aspiration. So it's not just to mengisi kemerdekaan or to obey your teacher or to obey your parents, but you need to have a goal. And the goal cannot develop in a vacuum situation. So you need to be you need an access actually. And I think ITS has provided you with so many access for career information, whether in national scope or internationally. Yeah. So back to the slide, comprehensive reviews of research findings reveal numerous robust relationships between worklessness, threats of worklessness, losing work, obtaining work, and quality of work and psychological well-being. So when you work, hopefully you will be happy. So when you work, it is expected that you can enjoy your life. Yeah. And there is also reciprocal relationship. Yeah, work is a significant factor in psychological well-being outcomes. Career development processes can be helpful in finding and managing the trajectories that lead to it. Conversely, psychological well-being often precedes measures of success, and that induction of positive affect leads to improved workplace outcomes. So, however, poor psychological well-being can impede the acquisition and retention of suitable work as well as the ability to fully engage in career development. So, when you have a good engagement in your career, hopefully it will lead to good well-being, and when you are happy, hopefully you will be productive in your working situation. So it is, we can see the reciprocal relationships between work and well-being, especially when I realized that the audience, most of the audience are adults, I believe. So what about unemployment? So in this pandemic situation, we often heard about what will you do after you finish your study? What will you do after you finish your study in the university, especially? So school leavers who enter poor employment can suffer a decline in well-being, whereas those who enter satisfactory employment or training experience in both physical and psychological symptoms compared with those entering unemployment. We see students can now access several opportunities for them to enter internship yet. So before they finish their study, they have already had an access to enter the internship program. I think that's a good thing that you can learn from the intern about what should you do in the real work situation. Yeah, maybe if only in the uni, so, or inside the classroom, you only get a bad mark for the worst situation that you will have in your classroom is you will get a bad mark. But in the real work situation, what will you do if you do this? I think it is not a bad mark or good mark, but you will face the real people's feedback regarding your performance. I think that's a very good situation for you to improve yourself, and it is very a good opportunity for you to learn something from the intern. So when we realize it as from the positive side, it's okay. But sometimes students are not ready to face the internship situation. Yeah. For example, they have some excuses for them not to be disciplined regarding the time and etc. And so many complaints come from the internship program to the university. They said that your student is blah blah blah, cannot follow the situation, they did not obey the rules, etc. So you need to practice, yeah, because internship can make it your step to come to the real world, to come to the real world of work. Yeah. So what about losing work? So losing work is associated with significant long-term earning loss, increased likelihood of obtaining part-time rather than full-time work after job loss, greater job instability, and increased likelihood of lower quality job. So I think that's a very bad situation. Yeah, hopefully you can still have your sustainable employability, so you don't have to lose your work. And re-employment, the pandemic situation also gives the situation when we experience re-employment. So re-employment for unemployed adult is associated with a variety of psychological well-being improvements, such as self-esteem and self-satisfaction, as well as less psychological distress and fewer mental illness diagnosis. And what about remote work arrangements? So the COVID-19 outbreak has rapidly changed the landscape of work, including where people work, to slow the spread of this virus and maintain social distancing. More organizations have allowed their employees to work from home, and it is expected that they will continue or even expand the extent of the remote work arrangement. And we can see that some of us work from home or work from anywhere. We don't know if we work from somewhere because you use your virtual background. So I don't know where you are from. Maybe you are in your office or you are near the beach right now or near the river. So work from home refers to working remotely from the worker's home on home, often located within commuting distance of the work, when work from anywhere does not require employees to reside within a commuting distance from the work and allows more flexibility to choose where they want to live. And this is already common, yeah, in the last few years, yeah, remote work being completed anywhere and at any time, regardless of location. So output-based performance, yeah. So maybe a few years ago, you have to come to your office and you need to print your finger in a machine, so fingerprint or face print, yeah. But now maybe your organization has applied like output-based, output-based performance that they don't require you to come to your office, but as long as you can show them the output of your work, I think everything is okay. So several similar terms have been used, such as home working, distributed work, telework, telecommuting, etc., mobile work, working from home, and work from anywhere. And this make you has more experience, more opportunity to have like overwork here. Maybe when you come to the office, you can go from 8 to 5, but when you work from home, maybe from 8 to 5 plus, plus 7 p.m. to 10. Yeah, I think that's the risk for everyone in this meeting. And you have no boundaries anymore. So satisfaction with telework was negatively associated with family relationship. I hope you don't experience this kind of situation. And the relationship with your coworkers also affect your well-being. Sometimes it is very hard for us in isolation, in a social isolation. I think sometimes we need to finally come to a meeting face to face in the office or your organization. And in this pandemic situation, we usually, people expect us to have a learning agility. You need to know what to do when you don't know what to do, because this is a very new situation and no one has had an experience to face this kind of new situation. So you need to know what to do when you don't know what to do. Don't panic, stay calm. And what should I do about this, I think that's a very interesting situation that we face in this era, yeah, because everyone expect us to have a learning agility. So you need to be skillful in having experiment, to do things, and you need to deliver result in challenging first time situation. You need to know what is your new partner strength and weakness, and you need to examine a problem in very unique and unusual ways. And also you need to keep in touch and get along with people from different types. Yeah. So we jump to the situation where sometimes we face a new situation and you need to demonstrate your learning agility. But sometimes we feel several stressors that more than we expected. So stress that we face focuses on mainly external pressure, yeah, on us that we are finding hard to cope with. When we are stressed, we usually know what we are stressed about. So I know. So there is a deadline. So 2 more hours I need to submit my paper, etc. Yeah? And the symptoms of stress typically disappear after the stressful situation is over. So stress is a feeling that individuals are under too much mental or emotional pressure. So it is triggered by something in your life happening that feels too much for individual personally to handle. Too much stress over too long of a period can begin to negatively affect all parts of your life. So there's a stressor. So that's an external pressure that is more than your expectation. So there is more than your resources can handle. Yeah. So it is called stress. But what is anxiety? Sometimes we mix up this kind of anxiety and stress. So anxiety isn't always as easy to figure out. So like if you are in a stress condition, you know what is your stressor. But if you are in an anxiety, so you don't know what is the cause of this kind of situation. Anxiety focuses on worries or fears or things that could threaten us, as well as anxiety about the anxiety itself. Stress and anxiety are both part of being human, but both can be problem if they last for a long time or have an impact on our well-being or daily life. So the difference is in stress, you have an exact stressor. In anxiety, if you feel anxious for things, you feel that it is not easy to figure out the cause of your anxiety. And you feel depressed, or serious issues that involve feeling low for several weeks or longer, for years in some cases. Yeah. Your depression can be triggered by one difficult experience or often just arrive out of the blue without explanation. It is often based on old, repressed emotion. It tends to leave you exhausted, demonstrated by lack of motivation and interest in life in general, low energy level, feeling overwhelmed by daily tasks and personal interaction. It often characterized by negative thinking, discouragement, sadness, hopeless, and anger, and insomnia. So, if you feel sad because you lose something, your book, where is that? You lose your cat, for example, lose your dog. I think it's okay for 1 or 2 or 3 days, but if it lasts, you're feeling low for several weeks or longer, or even years in some cases, I think you need to be aware of that kind of situation. So both stress and depression are individual. So sometimes what triggers stress in one person doesn't in another. And they affect your mood and energy level. Yeah, it is the same, yeah, in common. Eating and sleeping patterns are disturbed. You can struggle to function normally. You might not be able to concentrate. You might feel less interested in socializing with friends and family, and you can be irritable. Both are similar in the ways that can be dealt with. What is the difference between stress and depression? So, when you feel stressed, it tend to resolve when stressful situation is over. So it tend to have an obvious trigger. Stress is related to current event. If left untreated, can cause depression or anxiety disorder, and at very high level has risk of heart attack. And low stress can be okay and keep you motivated. But in depression, it tends to last up to years, can hit out of nowhere, can be linked to unresolved past event, and if left untreated, can cause suicidal thought at very high level has risk of suicide, and low stress can be debilitating. And this is the summary. So no one experiences perfect well-being all of the time, whether it is in pandemic or non-pandemic situation. And we all have to learn how to balance the different aspects of our lives. When things in our life change, we have to reestablish the balance. Yeah? For example, by demonstrating the learning agility. And recommendation for all of us, we need to focus on what we can do. So if we realize that our burden is so heavy, we need to ask someone else to help us. We need social support to help us. And then you need to manage your emotion, seek for support, focus on helpful and realistic thoughts, make a plan of action. We need to take care of ourselves and then take care of our relationship and focus on spirituality. I think that's it. I hope I don't exceed the time. If you need to contact me, I can be contacted via email at dian.ed.sawitri@gmail.com. Or if you would like to come to Semarang, please do not hesitate to come to Faculty of Psychology and Center for Career and Capacity Development Studies at the Universitas Diponegoro, Semarang. Thank you very much. Time is yours. Ms. Dias, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Sawitri, for your enlightening lecture regarding well-being. Thank you for bringing to our awareness that we need to balance our stressor and what makes us happy as a person or as a human being. Thank you, Prof. Sawitri. I believe that the lecture today will be beneficial for our participants. And now for participants who wish to ask the questions, please fill in the form that has been shared in the chat box. And we already have ones who raise hand. Okay, without further ado, I will open Q&A session. But before that, I would like to say hi to Dr. Misbakhul Munir. Hello, sir. Hello.
Hey, hi, Waalaikumsalam. Hi, how are you guys?
Hello, thank you, Dr. Misbakhul Munir, for your availability to come in this Q&A session. I'm aware that the time difference is very wide between US and Indonesia.
I know. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'll try my best to answer the question if there is any. I'm in another conference right now, and it's for almost 5 a.m. here. I'm in the lobby of the hotels, and there is music playing here. I hope I can serve you well. I'll try. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Misbakhul Munir. And we now opening the Q&A session. I would like to read our first question. This question is for Dr. Misbakhul Munir. This is come from Ibu Dewi Nurisetian Dari from Universitas Palembang. She's actually from Pusat Penelitian Karet. The question is, Okay, I would. Okay, so good afternoon, sir. Please our mission. I am Dewi from Palembang, South Sumatra, Indonesia. Is there any special treatment for transmitting a fungal isolate to healthy plants, which will be tested for vulnerability? I'm so sorry, we haven't muted the participants. Okay, so I will repeat once the question. So, is there any special treatment for transmitting a fungal isolate to healthy plants, which will be tested for vulnerability? From Dr. Misbakhul, please answer the question.
Okay, yeah. There are several ways to inoculate plants. Okay, some people use spraying method in which they make a spore suspension, for example, and spray it to the plant. Others just use mycelia of the pathogen of the fungus. Athos is mentioning about fungal isolate. So yeah, some people use mycelia or part of that fungus and just put it on the plants, make a wound of the plant and put it on it and incubate it. So it has to be considered by case. In this case, we have to know what crops we are working on, which method will work with that crop. So, but there are several common ways to do spraying method and also direct inoculation. Yeah, I think hopefully they answered that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Misbakhul. So the suggested method will be spraying and direct inoculation, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Thank you for your answer, Dr. Misbakhul Munir. And now we proceed to the next question. I can see that Aulia Harumi Baharisa from ITS has already raised her hand. Please, Aulia, to deliver your question.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Irma. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, I can hear your voice very clearly.
Okay, I want to ask a question to Professor Sawitri about mental health. So when we have some mental illness, there must be a trigger, right? You mentioned it earlier. So I read this book called The Courage to be Disliked. They highlighting the difference between Sigmund Freud and Adler's theory. So in attempt to learn about the trigger of our mental illness or the others, to understand the other triggers, which theory is better, like Adler's study of purpose or Freud's impact of the past? Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for your questions. Probably Prof. Fitri wants to answer the question. So the questions will be, what is the difference between the Adler's and Freud's method?
Yes, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for your question. I would like to say hi to Dr. Misbakhul. I didn't realize your presence here. I thought that you just said the video, so I didn't see you before. So I'm so sorry that I cannot see you and I didn't say hi to you before.
Hi, Dr. Sawitri. Nice to see you. I'm really enjoying your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. So it is very interesting question from Aulia, yeah, that you differentiate between Adler's theory that you need to have a sense of purpose in your daily life and the Freudian theory that you need to consider your past. Yeah, I think it really depends on your the purpose of your assessment. Yeah, and some people also comfortable when you are using this theory and they are not feeling so comfortable when using other theory. So it is up to you actually. So there is no preference to that you have to use this theory or use that kind of theory. But if you have you face a case, you may see, or you may analyze the situation using the Adler's theory or Freud's theory. When you have Adler's theory, you will realize that from the purpose of the person, you can analyze their aspiration, the way they get there, the obstacles that they face, yeah, what they want to get, yeah, and what kind of life they have right now. But if you have, you believe in Freudian theory, you may consider the defense mechanism that the people have, like in their life in the past, maybe in their childhood. You need to consider their childhood. You need to know what kind of parents they have, what kind of neighborhood they have, and what kind of siblings they have, the situation of the family. And you need to also consider the traumatic event, not only the precipitating factor from the current situation, but you need to consider the traumatic event and the reinforcing factor. For example, parenting styles from childhood to adulthood, something like that. So when you use Freudian theory, you do not only consider the current situation, so the precipitating factor that is experienced by that person, but you need to also consider the past experiences of that person. So it depends on your preferences and what you like to do with that kind of situation. But any case can be seen by any theories. If you like to use the Freudian theories, you need to do this. But if you like to use the Algerian theories, you need to do that, something like that. So I think that's the answer. So there is no which one is better. But if you want to do any theories, you need to know the basic theories, and you need to consider several things to use the theories properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Sawitri, for the very comprehensive answer. I think Freudian theory is very interesting because it looks back to the childhood trauma and so on, and the background that will be becoming the cause of defense mechanism that someone has in his life or her life. Thank you for Prof. Sawitri for the answer. And now we are proceed to the next question. This question is for Dr. Misbakhul Munir. This question is from Shirley Hani Varianti from Indonesian Rubber Research Institute. The question is, do we have any ways to overcome plant disease before it attacks the plant itself? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I think it's a really good question. So it is very important first, before even we take action to manage disease, is to identify or detect what pathogen that might be in our field or on our plant. So there has been several methods of pathogen detections developed these days. We can monitor pathogens in the environment by using several tools, such as spore trap, for example, and incorporated with some molecular tools to identify and to know what exactly pathogen that might be. And other methods can be using epidemiology model. So we can predict what might be in the field based on environmental conditions, for example, and historical, like kind of history of the field, what has been there in previous years. And then if we know what pathogen has been there, and we know how the biology of that pathogen is, then we can kind of use epidemiology of aspect of that pathogens to kind of predict what might be there this year, for example. Yeah, so yeah, we can use some spore trap or air collections methods in combination with identifications tools, and also plant disease forecasting method. I think that can be some option that we use. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Misbakhul Munir, for the answer. And we may proceed to the next question. This question is for Prof. Sawitri. Prof. Sawitri, how we can handle the mental health? This question is from Roslyn from Surigao State College of Technology, Philippines. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your questions. First of all, we need to assess our own competence. Yeah. We need to focus on what you can do right now. Sometimes when we have like certain aspiration, so we set a goal. Yeah. Sometimes when we realize that our goal is too high, we need to modify our goals or modify our effort. So which one you choose? Yeah. If you choose to modify your goal, it means that you need to lower your goal, yeah, not too high, so you can achieve that properly. But if you choose to keep your goal high, yeah, you need to modify your effort and see the resources around you. You may do more effort, yeah, and when you realize that your competence is limited and your resources are limited, you need to see your environment. Do you have related resources? So do the resources accessible to you? Are the resources accessible to you right now? Can you access the resources, for example, information, and then maybe emotional support, something like that, or financial support? Can you access that kind of support? If yes, you may use that kind of resources and you can achieve your goal. Yeah. And second one, when you set your target, most of us think about ourselves. Yeah. Sometimes, we need to intentionally think about other people. It means that when you think about other people, so the focus of yourself is not in you, but in something outside you. It is very important. So that's why maybe you see some movies or you have an experience when you handle people with several disorders. They need to do something, they need to create something, can be an art, can be anything, and they can cook to someone else, they can go to the community and do something there. It means that you think about other people. So that's a balance, because when you feel depressed, it means that you feel, you focus things about yourself only. What about me? Why he leave me alone when they don't like me, something like that. Yeah. So you need to focus on things, not you. Maybe you can focus on other people. You need to have a project that is doable. You need to have resources that is accessible. So you need control of your life. So in this pandemic situation, sometimes we feel depressed or anxious because we don't have control. So when will it over? When is the pandemic will be over? Yeah, is it next year or next month or tomorrow or something like that? I think you don't feel the sense of control of your life. When can I see my friend? When can I see my granddaughter? Maybe for the old people, yeah. When can I see my son? When can I travel abroad to see Dr. Misbah, for example? I don't know. there are uncertain situations that we need to handle right now. So we need a sense of control. So you can get a sense of control by doing things that you can do. Yeah, only you can assess that you can do things or not, whether you need help or not. Yeah, whether your goal is too high or not. And I think it is very important to think about things outside you. So it will balance when you think about only yourself, you will cry every day, you will lock yourself in your room when you have problems. But when you see someone outside you, maybe they need your help. And when you help them, it means that you will experience the exercise of control of yourself, yeah, because you can help others and you can see the very positive consequences from your help to others. I think it will be valuable for your life. So you need to have like a balanced life. I think that's the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Fitri, for the answer. And thank you for reminding us that we need to, our self-assessment is also important. Thank you, Prof. Fitri. And the next question is also still for Prof. Fitri. The question is, how does well-being affect health, and what is good health and positive well-being? Thank you.
Can you repeat the question? What is?
How does well-being affect health, and what is good health and positive well-being? I think the question means what is good health and positive well-being means.
Okay, how does well-being affect health? So when we feel unwell or in the middle of a stressful situation, sometimes our heart is beating, yeah. So we feel very tired, yeah. We feel very sleepy. But when we are happy, your heart is beating too, but you feel excited about things, you are smiling, and you're maybe when you think about your productivity, you have more ideas, something like that. So several indicators of stress can be found in how you perform your activity too. Sometimes when we are not in a good health and we feel we are in a stressful situation, it is very tired for us to read something, even to see the television, even to talk to other people. Yeah. And how it affect our health is, yeah, when you are sweaty, yeah, maybe when you are anxious and in a stressful condition, sometimes you feel your sweat is more than usual, and you feel your heartbeat faster than usual, yeah, and you also feel that you feel very sick, yeah, and it usually affect our health, yeah, physically. Sometimes when you feel that kind of situation and when you feel your hands are very cold, yeah, that will affect your performance. So I think well-being will affect our health and also our performance too. And when you, and regarding your second question about what is health and what is well-being, maybe I already shared the information via the PowerPoints that health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. So your physical condition is okay, your mental condition is okay, and your relationship with other people is also okay. And mental health, I think it's the state of well-being. So when you realize your ability, you can work productively, and you can cope with your normal situation. I think you have a good mental health here. But well-being refers to more like your self-evaluation about yourself. Yeah, do you feel okay? Yes, I'm okay. It means your well-being is okay. You know, how are you today? I'm okay right now. I'm fine. Yeah, I think you feel that you are okay. That's well-being. I think that's my answer. Maybe Dr. Misbah can also answer regarding how stress can affect physical condition, because you can also experience yourself here. You can think about you when you are afraid, you know, when you are anxious, or when you are in stressful condition, your heart is beating, sweating, and then more than usual, and then your hands are very cold, and you feel very tired, something like that. Thank you.
Probably Dr. Misbakhul want to add some words or two.
Well, I think Dr. Sawitri has pretty much covered up everything. So yeah.
Thank you for Prof. Fitri and Dr. Misbakhul Munir. The next question is for Dr. Misbakhul Munir. This is actually my question. So I would like to ask, you already you in the state in the lecture that tropical area has fewer fungicides than the US, right? So my question is, why is in the tropical area the variants of fungicides are most likely fewer than in the, let's say, in the US?
Well, that's also a good question. I think that that cannot be separated with some marketing aspect of fungicide. I think that question should be addressed to fungicide producing company too. I think like why? Yeah, I'm not sure why, but what I can comment on it is I don't think there's a good, I mean, like for fungicide company, mostly tropical area, probably not a good market for them because not maybe like users, growers are using it that much. Fungicide are very costly. Even to get it, it's not only to get the fungicide, to acquire fungicide, but to implement it. It's also costly. And in tropical area, usually disease pressure is so high because of the nature of the environmental conditions in tropical area really favor disease pressure to be high, like hot, humid the whole year. And there can be a factors that fungicide might not be an effective way to control diseases on that area as well. And what I can say in that particular area, I think cultural practices is something that should be emphasized. And like I mentioned in the lecture too, there is no single method can solve everything, right? So we can actually use what we have, and prevention is usually the best way. So there is a lot of prevention treatments, and that to me it's more of course more effective and efficient to control disease. Yeah, I think, but regarding why, not sure. Probably that's a good question for the provider of fungicide, but that's what my comment on it.
Thank you for Dr. Misbakhul Munir for your answer. Now, I already aware that in tropical area, one of the causes is that the pressure that is too high and humidity as well. And yes, thank you for bringing to us attention that prevention is the best action rather than curative, right? Thank you, Dr. Misbakhul Munir. And the next questions is for Professor our participant asked that what is the definition of well-being? Our participants asking the definition. Thank you,
Okay.
Prof.
Yeah. Well-being is individual self-evaluation. So how you evaluate yourself about your affective states. Affective means how you feel about things, about condition, about your situation, and also your evaluation about your positive feeling that you have right now and your emotion. So it really refers to more your own evaluation about how you feel. So what kind of emotion you have right now, and etc. I think that's the answer. So it is more subjective.
Professor, may I add something, please?
Yes.
So what do you think the physical like you have a disease, like if you physical disease impact on the mental disease or mental disease impact on the physical disease? What do you think?
I think, yeah, it's some interesting things. Yeah, I think it has a reciprocal relationship. So sometimes when we feel unwell physically, so we have also low motivation to do something, yeah. But when you face something threatening and when you are in a stressful situation, sometimes it will affect your situation too. Maybe you go to the toilet more often, you have some age, yeah, and you feel very cold.
Well, if you say that the impact ratio, well, if it's impact ratio like 1 to 10, like if you're mentally you feel ill, how to impact on the physical, or if you are physically ill, how to impact on the mental. So how much in the ratio, if you think that,
yeah,
from your assessment?
Okay. If if we are now in very good situation and we are normal, so let's say that we are all normal and you face a stressful situation, so it is more likely that you have also physical symptoms. But when you have physical symptoms, so it is you have a chance to feel stress and then you anxious, but it is more likely that you are in a normal situation, and when you are in a stressful situation, I think it is more likely that you will have a physical symptoms. Yeah. So I think from the effect of the psychological situation to physical situation is higher. From 1 to 10, maybe it is 9, but from physical to psychological situation, maybe 7. So for my situation, I think it is more likely that you will have a physical symptom when you are facing stressful situation rather than you have the physical symptom first and then it will affect your psychological situation.
So what do you think that we are first of all we have to like increase our mental peace, and we are at first we are not sick in mentally then physically?
Yeah, I think it is very important for us to have a positive mindset first, yeah, in every situation. So in the pandemic situation, you need an optimistic thinking that you will cope with this, yeah. So you have motivation to do your research about health, yeah. You need to invent maybe new medicine for the disease or etc. But in different situation, yes, different situation requires different health condition. You need to be healthy so you can help other people to face that kind of pandemic situation. Yeah. Maybe different. I think different situation require different mindset, and different situation also maybe require different health condition that you need to have to face the challenge of life. Thank you for your
So
question.
first of all, we are mentally healthy needed, right?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it is correct because you need a logical thinking to to choose your healthy behavior. Your healthy behavior, you need to logical thinking to think about what will you eat, what kind of activities you will have.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, thank you for Pak Nasmul for the very interesting questions. And we move to the questions, the next questions. This is for Prof. Sawitri. This is also actually my question. So currently or lately, we are familiar with the term healing, right? Especially in our youth generation. Do you see this as an alarming sign of the degradation of the well-being and how we can cope with this situation, Professor?
So what do you mean by that kind of healing? I think, is it common in the community?
Yes,
So,
it's,
it's a question.
yes, it is lately becoming common in our generation, our youth generation, especially in our working people who works. They stress and they say, I need a healing. I need
Oh, I
healing.
see. Yep. So you need something to heal yourself, right? Yeah, maybe you need something to reward yourself. So it means that you need a reward system to make your system perform better. Yeah. No, I need a healing. What is your healing? Yeah, I need an ice cream. Maybe it is enough for me to heal, to heal my day. So I need a cup of ice cream. Is very sweet and very comfortable for me to enjoy the ice cream. Yeah, sometimes but people are also more likely, currently people are more likely to feel that they are depressed. Yeah, so I am in a very depressed situation. So I often hear that students often told me about their condition, and they didn't just tell their condition, but they already judged that they have already had several symptoms of depression. I felt this. Oh no, yeah. Sometimes people are, yeah, hyperbolic about themselves. Yeah, I feel this. Yeah, because the current generation, maybe they have typical characters. Yeah, they like to feel, they like to be easily comfortable with themselves. So when they face challenges, they tend to feel that it is difficult. And I have already shown, or I have already demonstrated my best effort to face that kind of challenge. So I need healing. I need a healing. Yeah, maybe they need to hear experiences from my generation, maybe, or my older generation about life. Yeah, maybe they need also to hear or to listen to more experiences from other people who face many difficulties. So they don't easily say that I need a healing. But sometimes it's like a trend. Yeah, when you feel how I need a healing. Yeah, I need to have a cup of coffee in blah blah blah. Yeah, or I need a cup of ice cream. So, or I need to see a movie. Yeah, so I need to see someone, or I need to eat something. So I need a healing. But healing is, I think, it depends on our perspective. Yeah, if we say it optimistically, it means that we are okay. So let's go find something to eat. Yeah, you can say that to your friend. But sometimes we heard we heard that kind of healing in a very gloomy situation. Oh, I need a healing. Yeah. So my situation is very bad. I need to see a psychotherapist. I need a psychiatrist, something like that. So it depends on how they use that kind of phrase. Yeah. Miss Tias, thank you very much for your question.
Yes, thank you, Prof. Sawitri. Actually, yes, our people tend to self-diagnose themselves with depression. I'm depressed, and so on, and like that. Okay, thank you, and Prof. Sawitri and Dr. Misbakhul Munir for our session today. This is the end. My last question will mark the end of our Q&A session. And thank you. And now we're proceeding to the next agenda, which is certificate awarding. So here's the certificate for Dr. Misbakhul Munir.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And like Professor Sawitri said, I think it's about time to get a cup of coffee now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Misbakhul Munir, for your availability to come with us in our Q&A session. And the next certificate this is certificate for Professor Dian Ratna Sawitri. Thank you. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you for having me too. It's good to see all of you, and it's good to see Dr. Misbakhul Munir too.
Okay, and thank you, Professor. And once again, thank you for your availability and any contribution on today's guest lecture series. We believe that your lecture will be beneficial for our participants in understanding sustainable development goals, especially zero hunger and good health and well-being. And now, before we end off our lecture today, we would like to invite all participants as well as our honorable speaker to take a group photo. Therefore, we would like to request all the participants to please open your camera. All right, now since we have how many slides? Oh, sorry, since we have 4 slides, I will take 4th time. Now, in the first slide, I will count 1, 2, 3, smile. Right, and the second slide, 1, 2, 3. Thank you, and the third slide. And the fourth slide, 1, 2, 3. Thank you, that will be the end of our.
You are muted, Ms. Diaz.
You are
I'm
muted.
so sorry. Thank you again for Professor Sawitri and Dr. Misbakhul Munir for your lecture today, and also for the participants. Please fill in the feedback form through the link that has been sent by the committee in the Zoom chat box. And we also would like to remind you that the participants who will get the stamp are the participants who come on time, join this event until the end, and also fill the feedback form. And also for the next week, we will have, I'm so sorry for tomorrow, and for Wednesday and Thursday, we will have 4 interesting topics in 2 different streams. So for tomorrow, Wednesday, we will have SDGs 4 and 16, quality education and peace, justice, and strong institution, from which will be delivered by Mr. Ahmad Junaidi from Monash University and Mr. Marlo J. Elia from San Pedro College. And the stream 2 will be delivered by Associate Professor Nur Hazarina from University Technology Malaysia. And for the Thursday, we will have also 2 streams, which be delivered by Dr. Sharon Wilson from UTAR, University Tunku Abdul Rahman, and from Ms. Danifel Manalo from University of Batangas. And the second stream will be delivered by Dr. Tania Islam and Dr. Jonel Pinedalananda. Both streams and both streams are discussing about SDGs 5 and 10, which is gender equality and reduce inequalities. So I hope that we can meet again for our participants for tomorrow and Thursday.
You are muted, Ms. Diaz.
I'm so sorry. And for the last session, we will have a closing. And thank you. That will be end of our session. Thank you very much for our honorable speaker once again, and all participants for the attention and cooperation. We hope to see you again in the next agenda. And don't forget to follow our social media on Instagram at ITS International Office and Facebook ITS International Office as well, and keep updated of our program. Okay, see you next week. I'm sorry, see you tomorrow. GLS on SDG will be back tomorrow. See you.
See you. Thank you.
See you. Thank
Bye,
you.
Ms. Diaz.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, allow me to end the session in 3, 2, 1.